Welcome back to the deep dive. If you are listening to this, you already know the drill. We take a huge stack of sources. So we're talking production notes, critical essays, plot summaries, deep cut trivia, and we distill it all down into one definitive conversation for you.
And today we are really cranking up the tension.
Oh, absolutely.
Because we are looking at a truly pivotal moment in television history. We are talking about the season 1 finale of Breaking Bad.
Right.
The episode titled A No Rough Stuff Type Deal. And I mean, tension really is the right word here.
It's palpable.
It is, because when you look at the production context, this wasn't just a finale. It was effectively a rescue mission.
A total scramble.
Yeah, you have to remember, season 1 was cut short by the 2007-2008 Writers Guild strike.
Right.
So they had this sudden, massive external pressure. They had to scramble to turn episode 7 into a season ender.
Which really explains why the whole thing feels so frantic. Like, structurally, it wasn't originally designed to be the period at the end of the sentence.
Yeah,
it was supposed to be a comma, you know? Exactly. But that exact pressure cooker environment is what created the diamonds here. This is the episode that really signals the end of, well, amateur hour.
Yeah.
This is where White and Jesse Pinkman stop being just two guys struggling to cook in a beat-up RV, and they stumble very violently into the empire business.
Into the deep end. And we have a massive stack of notes here to go through today. Our mission for you, the listener, is to unpack exactly how this specific 47 minutes of television transforms the entire show.
From a dark comedy into a straight-up Western thriller.
Yes. We've got the business logistics to cover, the chemistry, the domestic lies, the critical reception. It's a lot.
And perhaps most importantly, we're going to look at the what could have been.
Oh, man, the alternate history.
Right, because as we look at the production history, there is a very real reality where this episode ended entirely differently for Jesse Pinkman.
Why?
A reality where he literally did not survive season 1.
I still can't really wrap my head around that, and we will definitely get to that because it changes the whole landscape of the show. But first, let's set the tone here. I am personally obsessed with the science heist aspect of this episode.
The MacGyver element.
Right. It feels like MacGyver Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
But I know you were looking at the much darker side of things today.
I am, yeah. I'm really looking at the shift in criminal stakes. This episode is where the threats stop being theoretical.
Like getting caught by the cops or whatever.
Exactly. The abstract fear of law enforcement becomes secondary to visceral, immediate physical danger. It's where Walt and Jesse realize they aren't the predators in this ecosystem. They are very much the prey.
Well, let's dive right in then. Segment 1, the business of meth and the immense pressure to scale up.
Right. So to set the scene properly, we have to look at the immediate aftermath of the previous episode.
Yeah.
Walt and Jesse are now deeply entangled with Tuco Salamanca.
Tuco. Just saying the name makes you tense up.
It really does. And for the listener who might just remember Tuco broadly as the crazy guy, we need to be a bit more specific. This isn't just a street-level dealer.
Like Crazy 8.
Right, Crazy 8 was a distributor, but he was...
He was reasonable? Is that the right word for a drug dealer?
He was rational. You could sit down and negotiate with Crazy 8. He understood cause and effect in a business sense. Tuco is a completely different animal.
Chaos incarnate.
Exactly. He is a high-level distributor with a profound, terrifying violent streak and a massive chemical dependency on his own product.
Which is a bad combination.
The worst. And Walt, in this sheer moment of absolute blinding adrenaline in the previous episode, has made a promise to this man that is, frankly, terrifying.
The 2 pounds.
He commits to producing 2 pounds of meth a week.
2 pounds. Let's just pause on that number for a second. To the average listener out there, 2 pounds might not sound like industrial, cartel-level quantities.
It sounds like a bag of flour.
Right, a bag of sugar you buy at the grocery store. But in the context of their current operation, too, guys, some glass flasks, an RV, this is a staggering amount of product, right?
It is a complete logistical nightmare. And this is where we see the immediate conflict between theory and practice, which, if you look at the notes, is a recurring theme throughout the entire series.
The academic versus the street.
Yes. Walt is the theorist. He sits there, looks at the chemistry on a piece of paper, and says, well, we have the reaction, therefore we can just scale the output.
Multiply by X and we get Y.
It's a clean, sterile equation to him.
But Jesse is the practitioner. He actually has to do the legwork.
Jesse is the operations manager, effectively. Yeah. He knows the street reality. He knows the fragility of the supply chain.
Yeah.
And he is the one slamming on the brakes here.
He tells Walt straight up, this is impossible.
And the reason is very specifically the raw materials.
We are talking about smurfing, right? Let's define that for the listeners, because the show throws that term around a lot, and it's central to why they are failing.
Smurfing.
Right.
So smurfing refers to the practice of hiring a legion of runners. The Smurfs, yeah. You hire them to go to dozens of different pharmacies and buy the maximum legal limit of cold medicine.
Specifically medicine containing pseudoephedrine.
Exactly.
And this is because the Combat Methamphetamine Epidemic Act. You can't just walk into a wholesaler and buy a pallet of Sudafed anymore.
Not without raising massive red flag.
Right. You have to sign a logbook, you have to show your driver's license, and your purchases are strictly capped per month.
So if you run the math, to make 2 pounds of highly pure crystal meth, you aren't talking about grabbing a few boxes from Walgreens.
No.
You were talking about hundreds and hundreds of boxes. You need an absolute army of Smurfs hitting every single pharmacy in Albuquerque, Santa Fe, and the surrounding counties.
And then even if you get all those boxes, you have the physical labor. You have to pop every single one of those tiny pills out of the individual blister packs.
Blister pack fingers.
Yeah, Jesse talks about that. It's tedious. It's terrible on the hands.
It's slow. And more importantly, it's high exposure. Every Smurf is a potential liability who could get caught and flip.
So Jesse looks at this whole equation, the street math, and realizes they cannot physically source enough pseudoephedrine to meet a 2-pound weekly quota. It's structurally impossible.
It simply does not matter how much of a genius chemist Walter White is if you do not have the basic precursors.
So they hit this massive supply chain wall immediately. And this leads to what I think is one of the most stressful business meetings in television history. They meet Tuco at the junkyard.
Which is such a fitting setting for this transaction.
It really is.
It's gritty, it's isolated, and they are literally surrounded by the crushed wreckage of other people's failures.
Great symbolism there.
And they show up essentially empty-handed, relatively speaking.
Right. They promise 2 pounds. They walk into this meeting with half a pound.
That is a 75% failure rate on their very first delivery.
In any normal corporate business, you get a stern talking to or you get fired.
In the drug trade with Tuco Salamanca,
Yeah.
you get severely hurt.
Yeah. Let's look at Tuco's reaction here, because the source material explicitly notes he threatens dire consequences. But it's not just the words he uses, is it? It's the sheer, unpredictable energy of the man.
It's the complete instability. Tuco is furious, but it's more than anger. He feels disrespected.
Right.
For him, a business agreement is a sacred bond of honor in his twisted worldview. So failing to meet the quota isn't just a logistical error or supply chain issue. It is a direct insult to his status as a boss.
This is so crucial because it establishes that Walt and Jesse aren't just in danger of losing a lucrative customer.
They are in danger of losing their lives right then and there.
The physical danger is so immediate and it's completely unpredictable. You don't know if he's going to yell at them or pull out a gun.
But here's where the episode does something fascinating. It pivots. Most normal people, faced with a furious, meth-snorting cartel distributor, would apologize profusely.
They would beg.
They would beg for more time. They would grovel in the dirt. But what does Walter White do?
He pivots entirely. He doubles down.
It is a classic defining moment of hubris born out of sheer desperation. Instead of saying, "I'm sorry, we can't do it," he looks Tuco in the eye and promises 4 pounds at the next meeting.
4 pounds. It's insane logic. He utterly failed to make 2 pounds, so to appease the guy, he promises double that amount.
It feels exactly like a gambler at a roulette table who just lost his entire mortgage on black, and instead of walking away, he says, double or nothing.
It is exactly the logic of a gambler chasing losses.
But psychologically, if we dig into Walt's head here, it's also Walt trying desperately to assert dominance in a situation where he physically has zero power.
Right. He can't fight Tuco.
He can't outmuscle him. He can't outgun him. So he tries to outpromise him. He's using his intellect, or what he thinks is his intellect, to manipulate the situation.
He is trying to solve an immediate life-threatening problem by creating a significantly larger, catastrophic future problem.
It's kicking the can down the road, but the can is getting exponentially heavier every single time he kicks it.
And the craziest part is Tuco buys it.
Yes.
Why does Tuco accept this obvious stall tactic?
Because Tuco is fundamentally greedy. The prospect of 4 pounds of this incredibly high-quality product totally overrides his immediate anger at the missing pound and a half.
Greed is the ultimate leverage Walt uses here.
Yes. So now they have walked away from the junkyard with their lives, which is a win.
Barely.
Barely. But they now have a massive, seemingly impossible quota of 4 pounds. and absolutely no way to fill it using their old recipe.
Because the smurfing operation is completely dead in the water.
Which brings us perfectly to our second segment, the science heist.
Yes.
Yeah.
My favorite part. Because if you can't get the ingredients for recipe A, you have to sit down and invent recipe B.
And this is a major shift in the series lore.
Mm.
Up until now, they've been doing a standard pseudoephedrine cook. Walt decides to switch to a P2P cook.
Now, without getting too bogged down in the deep organic chemistry for our listeners, the key takeaway here is the precursor.
Exactly. They don't need over-the-counter cold medicine anymore.
Yeah.
What they need is methylamine.
Methylamine. Just saying that word, it becomes so iconic later in the series, it's practically a supporting character of its own.
It drives so much of the plot.
But right now, in this episode, it's just a massive, frustrating obstacle. Jesse can't just go buy a barrel of it at the hardware store.
No, it's a heavily tracked industrial chemical. And Jesse, being the street-smart guy of the duo, tries to find a black market source. He actually finds a crew who can steal it for them.
But there's a catch.
A huge catch. The crew wants 10 grand just for the referral fee, essentially, just to make the introduction to the guys who will steal it.
And Walt and Jesse are flat broke, which is the supreme irony of this whole emerging empire. They are moving thousands of dollars of product. They have this massive cartel deal, but they are completely cash poor.
So Walt, in another moment of extreme hubris, says, fine, we will just do it ourselves.
And this leads to the break-in. This is the moment that I think really hooks people who might have been on the fence about the show. It completely transforms the vibe from a tense family drama into a heist movie.
It is the ultimate application of high school chemistry to commit grand larceny.
Yes. They scout out this chemical warehouse,
Mm.
and it is heavily secured. High fences, heavy doors, heavy-duty locks.
Now, a normal criminal, say a guy like Tuco, or just a generic street thug, they might try to ram the gate with a stolen truck.
Or blow the door off its hinges with a shotgun or C4.
Brute force. It's loud, it's messy, it draws the cops.
Right, but Walt uses thermite.
Thermite. It is so elegant in a deeply destructive way.
For the listeners who maybe skipped chemistry class, let's explain what thermite actually is, because it's fascinating. It's not an explosive, right?
No, not at all. It's a pyrotechnic composition. It's made of metal powder and metal oxide. Usually in this context, aluminum powder and iron oxide.
Which is literally just rust.
Exactly. Rust and aluminum filings.
Things you can get from an Etch-a-Sketch, basically, which is exactly what Walt does.
He harvests the aluminum powder from dozens of Etch-a-Sketches. It's brilliant. And when you mix those together and ignite it, it doesn't explode, it burns.
And it burns incredibly hot.
We're talking around 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit.
That is hot enough to melt through a heavy-duty steel lock like it's warm butter.
The visual of this scene is just so satisfying.
It's beautifully shot. Walt paints this paste, this thermite mixture, onto the locking mechanism of the heavy security door.
He sticks a literal sparkler in it to act as a fuse.
A sparkler.
And lights it up. And it just intensely burns through the metal in seconds.
It's a visually stunning sequence, but let's look at what it represents character-wise, according to our notes here.
This is Walt using his intellect to bypass a physical barrier that sheer strength couldn't move. It's his mind overcoming the physical world. But there is a much darker layer here that we need to acknowledge.
Which is the escalation of their crimes.
Exactly. This is the moment they cross a completely new legal and moral line. Up until now, they've been cooking meth, which is illegal, yes.
And they kill Crazy 8 and Emilio.
But that was framed as self-defense. They were reacting to a threat. But breaking into a secured commercial warehouse? Stealing a massive drum of industrial chemicals?
That is premeditated, aggressive, grand larceny.
They are actively seeking out crime now. They aren't just reacting to bad situations they stumble into. They are invading a legitimate business to steal property to further their own illegal enterprise.
They are completely crossing legal and moral lines just to keep the business floating.
And physically, the show does a phenomenal job of grounding this whole sequence. It is not a smooth, slick, Mission Impossible operation where Tom Cruise dangles from a wire.
No, it is incredibly clumsy.
It is so painfully clumsy. The image of them struggling to escape with that heavy drum of methylamine.
It's pure physical comedy, but it's completely stress-inducing.
Because a 55-gallon drum of liquid is not light. We're talking over 400 pounds of dead weight.
And you have a 50-year-old man actively suffering from lung cancer and a skinny, out-of-shape kid trying to hustle this giant metal barrel out the door before the security guard finishes his bathroom break.
It perfectly grounds the heist. It reminds us that despite the so-called superpower of science, these are still just very fragile, very human beings.
They get the barrel out, but they are completely exhausted. They are coughing. They are terrified. It's messy.
It's very messy, but it works. They get the barrel. They have the critical ingredient for the new recipe.
But while Walt is out playing action hero in the industrial district, we have a whole different type of intense drama happening back home.
Let's shift gears completely to segment 3, the domestic subplot.
I am so glad we are dedicating time to this today.
Me too.
Because a lot of people tend to gloss over the Skyler storylines, especially in season 1. But this specific subplot is fascinating. It seems disconnected from the drug cartel stuff at first glance, but it thematically mirrors exactly what Walt is doing.
It revolves entirely around the baby tiara.
Right, the tiara given to Skyler at her baby shower by her sister, Marie Schrader.
It's this gaudy, incredibly expensive piece of baby jewelry.
White gold, I think. Very pricey.
And Skyler, being a very practical person and maybe sensing something is a little off about the gift, decides to return it to the jewelry store. Maybe she just wants the cash for the baby. Or maybe she just thinks putting a tiara on an infant is ridiculous.
Probably both. But when she gets to the store to return it, things go sideways incredibly fast.
The store owner takes one look at it and detains her.
He locks the doors.
He locks her in. It turns out the tiara wasn't bought by Marie. It was shoplifted.
Just imagine the pure humiliation of that moment. You have Skyler White, who is heavily pregnant, standing in the middle of this high-end jewelry store, being openly accused of theft.
She is facing imminent arrest. The owner is calling the police.
And this is a woman who deeply prides herself on her moral standing. She is the good one in the family. She follows the rules. And suddenly she is physically trapped and facing jail time.
And this is exactly where we see that maybe Walt isn't the only one in the White family who can think on their feet under extreme pressure. Skyler improvises.
She performs, and it is a masterclass in manipulation.
She performs brilliantly. She fakes going into labor.
Right there in the showroom.
She creates this massive scene, playing the hormonal, confused, terrified pregnant woman card to the absolute hilt.
She starts hyperventilating, she's grabbing her stomach, demanding they call an ambulance, screaming about the stress harming the baby.
She completely weaponizes the situation. She creates enough chaos and sheer social awkwardness that the store staff just wants her gone.
They are absolutely terrified of a massive lawsuit or having a medical emergency happen right there in their lobby.
So they back down, they let her go.
It's a brilliant tactical move, but as you said, is also deeply manipulative.
It is incredibly manipulative.
Yeah.
And if you compare it directly to Walt's behavior, she is using her pregnancy as a shield in the exact same way Walt uses his cancer diagnosis as a shield.
Or how he uses his science as a shield.
Exactly. They both use their most obvious vulnerabilities to escape the consequences of their actions. Walt uses the "I'm just a dying man trying to leave a little money for my family" justification to excuse horrific violence.
And Skyler uses the "I'm just a confused, overwhelmed, pregnant lady" justification to escape a felony theft charge.
That is such a great connection to make. They are both actively learning that they can bend reality to their will if they just commit to the lie hard enough.
And of course, this whole ordeal leads to the inevitable confrontation with Marie.
Which is just painful to watch. Skyler knows for a fact Marie stole it. There is zero doubt. So she confronts her later privately.
And Marie's reaction.
She denies it completely. Stone cold denial.
Even when caught entirely red-handed by simple logic, the store owner identified the piece.
She just refuses to crack. And this establishes a deep foundational fracture in the family dynamic. It highlights Marie's kleptomania, which becomes a very important recurring thread throughout the series.
But more importantly for this episode, it shows that the criminal element, or the deception element, isn't just originating from Walt.
The rot is seeping into the entire family structure. Everyone is lying to everyone else.
The White and Schrader family is basically built on a foundation of profound secrets. Walt is cooking industrial amounts of meth. Marie is casually stealing expensive jewelry. Skyler is faking labor to escape the cops. It's a total mess.
And the true tragedy is that they are all secretly judging each other while doing it.
The hypocrisy is staggering.
It really is.
Okay, so Skyler is currently dodging arrest. Walt and Jesse have successfully acquired their massive barrel of methylamine, but now they have to actually synthesize the stuff.
And in classic Breaking Bad fashion, Murphy's Law immediately applies. Nothing works the way it's supposed to.
Which brings us to segment 4, the basement cook. The trusty RV, their mobile lab that has served them so well, it won't start.
It is completely dead. The engine won't turn over.
So to recap their situation, They have gallons of highly volatile stolen chemicals. They have a 4-pound quota due immediately to a homicidal maniac. And they have absolutely no place to cook.
So out of sheer desperation, they're forced to set up the lab in Jesse's basement.
Which is a terrible idea on so many levels.
It would be incredibly stressful on its own. You have the massive ventilation issues, the toxic smell that seeps into the walls, the very real risk of a catastrophic explosion right in the middle of a quiet residential neighborhood.
But the writers, because they are brilliant, add a ticking clock to the scene that layers this incredible dark comedy right over the top of the tension.
Jesse's house is currently on the real estate market.
Right. Let's remind the listeners why. He is deeply traumatized from the events with Crazy 8 and Emilio earlier in the season.
Emilio's remains melted through the ceiling. Crazy 8 was strangled in the basement.
That house has exceptionally bad memories. He wants out immediately.
So he has a realtor actively trying to sell it.
Yeah.
And she is hosting an open house viewing that very afternoon.
So while Walt and Jesse are setting up a felony-level industrial chemical operation down in the basement, there is a cheerful realtor upstairs putting out fresh-baked cookies and glossy flyers.
It is so absurd. You have these totally normal potential buyers walking around upstairs, commenting on the lovely crown molding, asking about the local school district.
And literally directly beneath their feet, separated by a few inches of wood, Walter White is synthesizing massive quantities of methamphetamine.
It creates this incredible, almost unbearable dissonance. The separation between totally normal, mundane suburban life and the hyper-violent drug trade is literally just a thin basement door.
And the sound design in this specific sequence is masterful.
It really is.
You hear the muffled footsteps pacing back and forth upstairs. You hear the indistinct, polite chatter of the buyers. It constantly emphasizes exactly how close they are to getting caught and going to federal prison.
And then, of course, there's the close call.
My heart was in my throat. A potential buyer, just some nosy dad looking for extra space, actually tries the handle of the basement door.
He wants to see the storage space.
And Jesse's reaction is just priceless. He doesn't come up with a smooth, calculated lie like Walt or Skyler might in that situation.
He doesn't casually open the door and say, "Oh, sorry, the floor's being revarnished. Please don't come down."
No, he just completely explodes.
He storms up those stairs. He goes full street mode.
He starts screaming at these nice suburban families to get out of his house. He demands the realtor leave immediately. He formally takes the house off the market right then and there.
It effectively ruins the open house, but it saves the cook. They don't get caught.
And tone-wise, looking at the episode as a whole, this basement segment is so crucial. Breaking Bad is famous for being masterful at balancing multiple genres within a single episode.
The warehouse heist was a straight thriller.
The Skyler tiara scene was a tense domestic drama.
And this basement scene is a total farce. It perfectly balances that high-stakes tension of getting caught with the sheer, undeniable absurdity of the situation.
It's funny, but it's deeply stressful at the exact same time. That really is the Breaking Bad sweet spot.
So they survive the open house, they finish the cook, and this brings us right to segment 5. The blue sky and the violence.
Because the product they create, it looks very different.
It is chemically different. They actually successfully produce 4.6 pounds of meth.
Which exceeds the impossible quota.
Right. But because of the massive chemical change, switching from the pseudoephedrine reduction to the P2P methylamine process, the resulting product comes out blue.
The birth of the iconic blue meth.
We actually have to pause on the real-world science here for just a second because it's a point of contention for chemists watching the show.
Right, the accuracy of the color.
In reality, highly pure methamphetamine is going to be white or completely clear glass. The blue color, chemically speaking, doesn't actually make total sense as a marker of high purity in the real world.
It would usually indicate an impurity, right?
Exactly. But in the visual language of the television show, it serves as a brilliant branding device.
It visually signifies to the audience and the characters that this is Walt's unique product. It stands out.
But Walt himself is actually deeply worried about this at first, because he is an obsessive perfectionist. He genuinely thinks the blue color indicates a failure, an impurity, or a cloudiness in the crystal lattice structure.
He's literally apologizing for the color before he even hands it over to Tuco.
But Tuco does not care about the color spectrum. He cares about the physiological kick.
And Tuco tests it right there. He snorts it using a massive Bowie knife, by the way, which is just a terrifying little character detail.
And he confirms it kicks like a mule. He is absolutely thrilled. So the blue color instantly becomes a signature of quality, not a flaw.
So we go back to the junkyard for meeting part 2.
Right.
They have the 4+ pounds of product. Tuco is happy. He pays them a massive stack of cash. The deal seems completely successful.
They pulled off the impossible. They made the quota. They successfully stole the chemicals. They managed to cook in a residential basement without getting arrested. They won.
They should be high-fiving. They are suddenly incredibly rich, but then the entire vibe of the scene changes instantly.
This is the explosion of violence we teased in the very beginning of the deep dive. And it starts with something so incredibly small.
Tiny, almost imperceptible if you aren't paying attention. No-Doze, one of Tuco's henchmen, a guy who's basically just been a silent background extra this whole time, makes a completely offhand remark to Walt.
As they are finishing the deal, No-Doze just says, "Just remember who you're working for."
It sounds like such harmless, generic, tough guy talk, like, hey man, don't forget the boss made this happen, show some respect.
To a normal person operating in a normal reality, yes. It's just simple sycophancy. He's trying to support his boss's authority. But Tuco is heavily intoxicated, deeply paranoid, and high on his own power.
He perceives this comment as a massive insult.
How does he even get to insult from that?
Well, Tuco thinks No-Doze is speaking for him. He thinks No-Doze is inadvertently implying that Tuco is not intelligent enough or intimidating enough to handle his own business negotiations. So No-Doze has to step in and verbally remind Walt of the hierarchy.
Right. Tuco turns to him and asks, "You think I'm stupid?"
And once Tuco asks that specific question, there is absolutely no right answer.
The air just completely leaves the junkyard. The reaction is so sudden and so brutal. Tuco physically attacks No-Doze.
And he doesn't just slap him or push him back.
He beats him unconscious, right there in the dirt. It is a terrifying frenzy of violence. He pummels him relentlessly.
It's completely animalistic, and then just as suddenly as he started, he just stops.
He stands up, he calmly fixes his shirt, and he casually tells his other guys to dump No-Doze in the back of the car.
And it is heavily implied, strongly by the sound design and the visuals, that No-Doze is actively dying. His breathing is a ragged, wet gurgle.
Gonzo, the other massive henchman, looks absolutely terrified of his own boss.
And Walt and Jesse.
They are frozen, absolutely paralyzed.
They are standing there clutching a heavy bag full of money, slowly realizing they have made a catastrophic mistake.
This is the exact moment the harsh reality hits them. The episode title, remember, is a no rough stuff type deal.
Which is incredibly darkly ironic.
Tragically ironic. They entered into this deal with Tuco, hoping for a straightforward business transaction. We cook the meth, you sell the meth, nobody gets hurt, everybody gets rich. That was the naive dream.
But by the end of this episode, they realize they are now bound as partners to a total psychopath.
They aren't just businessmen anymore. They are now direct witnesses to a brutal murder.
It is such a terrifying note to end the season on. They have the money they desperately needed. They have the technical success of the blue meth, but they are totally trapped.
You can't just quit the cartel. You don't hand in a polite 2-week notice to Tuco Salamanca.
Precisely. They have willingly climbed onto the back of a starving tiger, and now they literally cannot get off without being eaten.
Now, I want to step back a bit from the plot itself and look at the broader context of this episode. Segment 6. Behind the scenes and critical reception. We touched briefly on the title, but let's dig a little deeper into that reference.
The title is a direct reference to the 1996 film Fargo, right?
Yes.
Oh, I absolutely love that movie. The Coen brothers are masters of this tone.
They are. In the film Fargo, the main character Jerry Lundegaard uses the exact phrase, a no rough stuff type deal, when he's nervously discussing a kidnapping plot with the hitman he hired.
He is trying to desperately assure himself and these hardened criminals that the crime will be clean, easy, and bloodless.
And of course, in Fargo, it goes horribly violently wrong. People get shot, people go into wood chippers.
Just like here. It's a very deliberate thematic nod by the Breaking Bad writers. It signals to the audience that when you invite severe crime into your life, you completely lose control of the violence.
You simply cannot ask for no rough stuff when you are choosing to deal with incredibly rough people. Violence in this world is a contagion.
That is such a cool thematic detail. It perfectly frames the whole episode as a tragedy of good intentions, or at least safe intentions, just gone totally wrong. Now, here is where the production notes get really interesting. You mentioned an alternate ending earlier. The big what if.
Yes. This is one of those behind-the-scenes facts that still keeps hardcore Breaking Bad fans up at night. The creator of the show, Vince Gilligan, originally intended for this exact episode to be the definitive end of Jesse Pinkman.
Wait, really? Jesse was actually supposed to die in season 1?
That was the concrete plan in the original pitch and during the early breaking of the story in the writer's room. Jesse was always designed to just be a gateway character.
Meaning he just introduces Walt to the criminal underworld, shows him the ropes, and then exits.
Exactly. He introduces Walt to the trade, and then he was supposed to be brutally murdered in a botched drug deal at the very end of this episode.
And his violent death would have been the primary motivator for Walt moving forward.
Yes. Jesse's death would have been the narrative catalyst for Walt's next phase of revenge or deep guilt. Walt would have had to navigate the cartel world completely alone, haunted by the kid he effectively got killed.
I cannot imagine the show without Jesse Pinkman. The dynamic between Walt and Jesse is the emotional core of the show.
It's the whole engine.
Their love-hate relationship, the twisted father-son dynamic. If you take that away in season 1, what do you even have left?
You have a much colder, much darker show, much faster. But Vince Gilligan realized that, thankfully. During the filming of the very early episodes, he was just incredibly impressed by Aaron Paul's performance.
He saw the potential.
He saw the nuance, the unexpected humor, and specifically, the undeniable on-screen chemistry with Bryan Cranston.
It's that rare lightning in a bottle. You can't write that. You just have to cast it and hope.
It is. Gilligan realized that killing Jesse off would be a massive narrative mistake. He famously said later that it would be like cutting off a healthy limb.
So the writer's strike actually gave them the necessary time to rethink the whole trajectory?
Yes. The strike paused production, giving them breathing room to reevaluate. But even before the strike officially hit, they were already quietly pivoting away from killing him off because Aaron Paul was just too good. So in a very real way, this episode literally saved the character's life.
If Aaron Paul hadn't brought his absolute A-game to those early scenes, Breaking Bad would have been a fundamentally different and probably much less successful show.
We wouldn't have, science. We wouldn't have the true emotional anchor of the series.
It is undoubtedly the best decision the writers ever made. So, knowing all this behind-the-scenes tension, how did the critics actually react to this intense finale when it first aired? Did they see the long-term potential?
They absolutely did. IGN reviewed the episode and gave it a 9.1 out of 10, which is a stellar rating for a first-season finale of an unproven show.
It showed that the critics were really buying into the rapid escalation of the stakes.
And looking back at it now, in retrospective rankings.
Yeah, how does it hold up against the rest of the series?
It lands solidly in the middle. The Ringer placed it 35th out of 62 total episodes, and Vulture ranked it 28th.
So solid middle-of-the-pack rankings.
Right. But you have to remember, middle of the pack for Breaking Bad is considered a series highlight for almost any other television show.
That's a very fair point.
I think the mid-tier rankings just reflect the fact that the later seasons, like Season 4 and Season 5, reach such stratospheric heights of drama. Episodes like Ozymandias just push everything else down the list by comparison. But the critical reception confirms that this was a deeply high-quality finale that successfully hooked viewers for the next season.
And before we wrap up, we absolutely have to mention the guest star again, Raymond Cruz as Tuco Salamanca.
Oh, absolutely. His performance is completely magnetic.
He is terrifyingly unpredictable.
He brings an erratic energy to the screen that really elevates the threat level of the entire show. He isn't just a standard villain. He's a true force of nature.
So, bringing all these threads together, what does this episode ultimately mean for the series? If we zoom out, we've seen the birth of the blue meth, the terrifying start of the Tuco partnership, and Skyler's own brush with the law.
We've witnessed a massive pivot. The show started out as a quirky, dark comedy about a desperate high school teacher making meth in the desert. With this episode, it officially becomes a grim crime thriller about sheer survival. The fun adventure aspect is gone. Now, it's just raw danger.
And the recurring theme of improvisation really stands out to me.
It is central to everything they do. Walt improvising with the thermite to break into the warehouse, Skyler improvising with the fake labor to escape the jewelry store, Jesse improvising by kicking everyone out of the open house.
They're all just desperately digging holes and then having to dig deeper holes to escape the dirt from the first ones.
It is a constant, exhausting downward spiral.
And that's the real tragedy of it all. Every clever solution they come up with just tightens the noose around their own necks.
Walt solves his immediate money problem, but he gets Tuco as a boss. He solves the pseudoephedrine quota problem, but he commits major grand larceny to do it. There is simply no clean getaway.
Well, this has been an incredibly thorough look at a no rough stuff type deal. It is genuinely amazing how much character development and plot progression happens in just one single hour of television.
It really perfectly sets the stage for the chaos of everything that follows in season 2.
Before we go, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final provocative thought to mull over. We talked a lot about the alternate history where Jesse dies in this episode.
A big what if.
Right. If the writers had actually stuck to that original plan, would Walter White have survived season 2?
That is the ultimate question. Was Jesse just a disposable sidekick? Or was he actually the essential tether keeping Walt connected to his own humanity and to the harsh reality of the street?
Without Jesse there to constantly check his ego, does Walt flame out immediately? Does he get killed by Tuco within a week because he arrogantly says the wrong thing at a deal?
Or does he become a cold-blooded monster much, much faster without Jesse's conscience slowing him down? It is definitely something to think about.
It really is. Thank you so much for joining us for another deep dive.
Keep questioning the narrative. We will see you next time.